Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring in the top right corner xpRiSky, our purple Protoss, and in the bottom left we have xpTOPshooter. Hey, wait a second. XP and XP, something tells me they know each other, and it's not just the colors because it's yellow versus purple, so you know they're in the same. They're in a custom game, is what I'm saying. It's not a ladder, but they are in the same league, so they're both Masters level player. Even though they know each other, doesn't mean this isn't going to be a fantastic game. It tells me it's going to be an even better than a ladder game, because you can get up to shenanigans and you don't have to worry about it too much. You can try weird stuff, and if there's any matchup that needs more weird stuff, it's Protoss versus Protoss, because it's not too exciting, especially in the early couple of minutes. It's basically, you've heard this stuff. It says if you're gonna move out first, the person who blinks first to get their own expansion is the one who loses. And so you see a bunch of one base play, and yeah, there's a lot of different shenanigans. You can get DTs, you can get an early Stargate or Robo, or a lot of 4 gates and 7 gates and number/gate. So yeah, there's a lot of different variety there, but there's not a lot of imagination, and it's not very risky. And so probably going to see some risky play just because they know each other. It's going to be cool. Speaking of risky play, we see the gateway going up right onto the north side of the Nexus, so as soon as I get done talking about how you can expect to see something weird happen, we see nothing. It's just totally standard. First gateway, and the assimilator going down for RI Sky. I'm just going to call him Sky if that's okay, and then the other guy's going to be TOPshooter because that rolls off the tongue. Double gas for TOPshooter. That's pretty cool. Could signify an early Robo coming out of him. Only time will tell. However, nothing's going to be stopping this first probe from getting in from Sky, and he's going to see that those 2 gas are down and are actually going to be coming up just a couple of seconds, getting it saturated by probes. There goes 2. Well, there'll be another 2 in the bottom one. You get that nice, sexy gas timing. It's pretty neat. But Sky knows there's no secrets here. The cybernetics cores also started for him, and a second gas going up for Sky, so that's pretty cool too. So both players going to be grabbing for some early tech. Early on tech is basically what I'm seeing out of this. Probably a Robo is going to be coming up next, but you can't discount the Stargate, you can't discount the early Nexus. What is this? Another gateway coming out for Sky, so that's going to be pretty cool, so signifying some early aggression, probably based on the fact that all he saw down here was just some early gas, and that gas is being mined with four harvesters. Double chrono boost, 1 down on the warp and 1 on the first sentry, which is going to be used just to hold that early gate. The probe from Shooter is just now leaving Sky's home base, so he saw that second gateway, which, you know, 2 gate into Robo is also pretty standard, but it could signify some other form of aggression. So, you know, you never really know. TOPshooter being very honest, Twilight Council from Sky saying that he got supply blocked just for a couple of seconds. It's going to be finishing up while he's accumulating quite a bit of money. You know what I would do is, if I just had that much money, throw down Nexus. It's a fantastic way to lose a match. It's great whenever you just have 400 minerals. You're like, I'll just go for an expand. It's going to be fine. It'll be fine. It's never fine. It's never fine. It's a bad decision that I do constantly. Twilight Council is a good decision from Sky, though. It's going to be pretty neat, especially on a map like Cloud Kingdom. By the way, we're on Cloud Kingdom. It's a very vertical map, a lot of different ledges, a lot of different sneaky ways into the base, especially if your opponent has a third. You can just swing in on the third, hit some probes there, blink up to the high ground, hit some probes here, blink into the low ground, hit some probes there, and then just scurry away to safety. But in all honesty, you're probably dead by then. But you did a lot of damage, so it's going to be pretty cool. So Twilight Council with Blink already being researched for Sky. Fantastic play there, as we see the 2 gate into Robo from Shooter with the double sentry up at the top of the ramp. Really wants to guard this ramp to make sure that Sky doesn't get into his base just yet. Sky is aware that there was double gas being grabbed, is aware that he only saw the first gateway going down, so he suspects that something was going down. But is it a Stargate? Is it a ridiculous number of gateways? Or is it a Robo? He doesn't know. So he's going to have to prepare for all of them. We see that the warp gate tech is done. 2 more gateways being added on, so it's going to be a bit of a 4 gate. Slightly delayed just because we don't see any. Oh no, we do. Wow, the pylon's already placed, the stalkers are already out on the field, and this is actually shaping up to be quite the devastating attack from stalkers. They've got that blink done, so they're going to be able to do quite a lot of damage. Oh, but TOPshooter's got his number. He's got sentries positioned at the top. There goes the fantastic force field with the zealot pounding away. These stalkers are definitely going to go down. There goes the second force field, and now with no vision on the high ground, these stalkers will not be able to blink up and do any damage to the stalker firing from the high ground. Fantastic play from Shooter. It looks like that stalker with no sentries there left to reinforce his position with force field is, he's going to go down. That's fine. Sky is moving in. Oh, he's already got the pylon queued up just to the north side of the Nexus from xpTOPshooter. Shooter's going to be going to town on that Nexus. Won't be forcing a cancel, but is going to be doing quite a lot of damage to those shields. The first Immortal is on the scene. Quick blink forward from Sky is going to be focusing down that Immortal. It does not go down. Wow, just barely making itself way to the ramp. Sky really committing there, committing pretty much all of his stalkers going down. One force field, two force fields from xpTOPshooter, forcing those two stalkers to basically die. Oh, but he's unaware of the pylon. He doesn't know about the pylon. Now he does. How fantastic. Retreating those so that the stalkers from Sky can get fully warped in on the low ground, start doing some damage, but with 3 sentries and an equal number of stalkers, Sky definitely has to retreat. And man, you know what, Sky? He's done a bit of damage during this aggression, but with 29 over 23 Harvesters, not even a Nexus, I'm going to say that the right now, Shooter is in a little bit better shape than Sky, though Sky is making a move again. He's getting another round of 4 stalkers. He's going to be doing quite a lot of damage, focusing down the sentries. The sentries are pretty much totally out of energy at this point, only enough for 1 force field, which is going to be doing too much damage with Cloud Kingdom's enormous choke right here. However, pushing the stalkers all the way back, he'll be able to choke up the stalkers once again. Really needs to do something about that pylon with another Immortal on the field. The stalkers blinking forward once again, this time once again focusing down the Immortal. Oh, it goes down to just one final shot, and Sky doesn't have to sacrifice any more stalkers by blinking in. A good concave from both stalkers, but the sentries are beginning to fall. Another round of stalkers being warped in, just 3 this time, because the economy is beginning to show exactly how risky this tactic was for Sky. But I think he's done it. I mean, he's basically broken even, and xpTOPshooter only has 2. He's got the warp gates, but they're just not warp. They're not gateways. They can't warp in because he hasn't changed them yet. Oh, just now realizing his mistake, but it is too late for that Nexus. It's going to go down with only 200 hit points left, and so many stalkers on the low field. No, they retreat with just 4 hit points. Oh, forcing the blink from the single stalker right on top of the Nexus. A good play there, making sure that the damage that needed to be done was done. Another Immortal. This is the 3rd Immortal out on the field right now, but with that Nexus going down, we can see the resources lost tab is currently, wow, actually in the favor of xpTOPshooter. And that's surprising because xpTOPshooter's really been on the defense this entire time. 4 probes added into the mix just because xpTOPshooter really needs to push out and do significant amount of damage, because unbeknownst to him, Sky still hasn't taken his own expansion, and I think that's exactly what Sky needs to do right now, is just retreat, throw up a Nexus. You're fine. You've done so much damage, and it'll be just fine if you go back and you actually get your own expansion up right now. But no, Sky once again being incredibly aggressive, pushing forward. I think if Shooter were to hold him at this ramp, it would be a completely different story. And the Shooter, once he's going to be doing the aggression, and I don't agree with it. Those stalkers are so incredibly mobile with their the blink, making it so that they can last pretty much forever with a more immobile force. Those stalkers and the Immortals won't be able to engage directly, and those stalkers will be able to blink away. Even with the sentry that's throwing down a single force field, it's not going to be enough to force an engagement, which is what xpTOPshooter really needs. xpTOPshooter has found the pylon. It goes down, and the Immortals have taken 1 or 2 pot shots at the stalkers. They're taking quite a lot of damage. Look at how little shields they have left. They've pretty much all of them have taken hull damage in one form or another. So xpTOPshooter definitely has a superior force, but Sky still hasn't taken that Nexus, so he needs to get in there and do some economic damage to the main base. xpTOPshooter hasn't felt confident enough to throw down a Nexus of his own, and Risky Sky has he's saved up 600 minerals, so he can throw down his own Nexus on the back of this, and I think he's got such a huge number. There goes the blink. Oh wow, force field on the lower side of the ramp, doing the opposite of what xpTOPshooter wants, make it so that his force can't even go up into the main base, blaming it on the lag spike, which I have to admit is a huge problem. These stalkers really doing quite a lot of damage. could have done a lot more damage to the economy, but you know, he'd be sacrificing maybe his own chance, because this is pretty much the only force that he has out on the field right now. If he lost that, if there was one misstep, those stalkers could have gone down, and then all of a sudden XpTOPshooter could do what he wants to do, which is march off into the home base and wreck the entire infrastructure. Single sentry, second one being warped in on the high ground. Oh, here comes the nice branching attack into it, getting one of those stalkers down. The other one's taking just a couple of pot shots, but finally retreating. The observer having to be very, very on top of things, scouting them out, grabbing the Zeldaga watchtower on the low ground, seeing which direction those stalkers are going. There goes the blink, another 1 or 2 pot shots. I don't think any of these stalkers are going to go down, because the ones with shields are now at the rear rather than the weak ones at the front. Man, blinking all over the place. But at the same time, XpTOPshooter has split up his force into 2 different groups. No immortals in this group, marching off to the front door with some probes in the front. Just 3 sentries with one single a single zealot on the high ground. It looks like all the stalkers have escaped successfully, just staying alive basically. There goes the 2 force fields up on the high ground, preventing XpTOPshooter from forcing his way into the home base. Chrono boosts down on pretty much every single one of the warp gates. Oh, at the same time, the probes that were retreating back to home have gotten intercepted by Sky and taken down completely. Not the biggest loss in the world, really just frees up some supply, which gets eaten up immediately in the form of an immortal. Oh, those 2 immortals were very much exposed just for a second. At the same time, things are going just back and forth. The force fields are continuing to be thrown down on the home ramp. These stalkers really want to force their way up, and why? Because pretty much all of the energy from those sentries have been expunged. But what's this? A human meat shield in the form of all those zealots chewing up the 3 stalkers that were exposed in between those force fields. But the immortals have now arrived. They're going to be able to force their way up that ramp, no problem at all. The stalkers on the low ground will be able to blink up to the high ground to support this basically breach. You got to make sure that nothing gets up that ramp, because once shooters and mortals can force their way up into the home base, they'll be able to wreck pretty much everything, especially with those stalkers being very, very weak. I mean, look at this, so many pretty colors, red, yellow, green. It's definitely weak stalkers. XpTOPshooter now feels confident enough to retreat with his 2 immortals and 3 immortals and just a lot of stalkers to get his own nexus up. 400 minerals being saved by Sky. When will he feel like it's safe for him to take his own nexus? I really feel like Sky should have taken an expansion a long time ago, but just hasn't, and he's committed so very strongly to this early aggression. And I have to admit, man, he's really made it work. He's done a ridiculous amount of damage to Shooter just constantly, basically making it so that Shooter can't engage directly, even though he's got a superior force. And that's got to be very frustrating. Got to be playing mind games with Shooter right now. 57 over 54 for the units lost tab, just showing you how cost effective Sky has been. And the economy 26 over 32, so pretty much neck and neck. XpTOPshooter would definitely be ahead if he had kept those probes alive early on that got intercepted by those stalkers. But what can you do? I mean, Sky has been incredibly cost effective with his forces. And look, Sky is getting that Templar archive up with 800 gas saved up. That's going to be very cost effective. And cost effective is the name of the game that Sky's been playing right now. XpTOPshooter retreating, even though he's got a very intimidating force. It might be the right decision. Maybe he could have done something over here in the corner, making it so that those zealots couldn't get the surround, using the Nexus as a bit of a choke. I think maybe that would have been a decision that I would have done. Things would have ended differently, I'm sure, because we would have lost one person would have lost the complete army. On the other hand, Shooter has lost his Nexus, forcing him to rebuild it. At the same time, Sky is getting his own robotics facility as well as a Nexus back at home. The robotics facility is going to open up some interesting choices. Will he just get a warp prism to make it so he can continue his harassment of his stalkers, or an observer so he can scout the high ground and blink up into high ground, or is it going to be some change over into the Colossus so that he can start dealing with the more slow and ponderous and straight up death ball that Shooter has right now? Will Sky, it's basically in Sky's corner to make something happen, because as time progresses, I think Shooter has shown us that he is more than content to sit back, relax, and macro. And Sky's been very, very aggressive. So I think we're going to have to look to Sky for the decision of how this game is going to progress to take place. That Nexus is going to be finishing. All of those probes are beginning to long distance mine, and this is why I guess Sky had to take that Nexus, is because he's only got 2 mineral patches left. 2 Archons already out, 3 Archons already out on the field. The probe, the observer retreating as fast as he possibly can, with the observer defensively placed from Sky over here by the mineral patches. Some zealots running around into the corners just to check. You can also check out the mini-map showing you that he's checked out pretty much every single one of those mineral lines to see if TOPshooter has managed to sneak in a hidden base, 2 more warp gates that haven't, 3 that haven't become a warp gate, so that he can actually make units out of it. There they go. Now that the last one has successfully been built. Quite an intimidating number of immortals out on the field, and I think that the robotics facility is going to be used in a different way now that the robotics bay is out, rather being built. You know, we're going to see some Colossus, and those Colossus are going to do quite a lot of damage to those Zealots. Still no upgrades for either player, unless I'm mistaken. No, 0 for 0 all across the board. And wow, another robotics bay also for Sky. So both players beginning to mech up into the Colossus, which is kind of interesting because they're basically both on one base. Sky definitely is on one base. What type of mineral patches does Shooter have? Just the 2. So yeah, both players are pretty much on one base, and we're going to see just how many Colossus you can create on a single base. And I think Sky is beginning to get more and more aggressive with his stalkers. He's now got an observer out on the field, which is checking out the high ground, pecking away at those warp gates. And as soon as he saw that there were units down, oh no! Destroying one of the warp gates, but no, I don't think that's a misclick. I think that's just so that he can get out onto the low ground. But look at this, TOPshooter had half of his force positioned defensively up on the high ground, seeing that those stalkers were indeed there, and takes them down. Now immediately rebuilding the gateway. I think that there's a gap down here. I don't really know. I do not really know. I don't know why he's rebuilding the gateway either. If there is a gap down there, there's no need to destroy it. Maybe it was a misclick. I don't know. No sense in dwelling on it. A third is being created by Sky just so he can finance the shift change into Colossus, as well as making more and more High Templars, eating up more and more of that gas to create more and more of those Archons, which twofold for those Archons. One is they work so well with all the Zealots that Sky has out right now, and the other thing is those Archons are massive units. They can crush any of the Sentry's force fields, which have proven to be rather pesky on both sides of the table. So I think it's a good decision to get those Archons out now, and they're going to work very, very well with the Death Ball that Sky has already started. On the other side of things, Immortals do quite a lot of damage. They don't do extra damage against Archons, but they do quite a lot of damage in their own right, and they do a lot of damage to Stalkers. So if these armies were to clash right now, I'm not 100% sure who would come out on top. I do know it would be quite a spectacular battle, though. Extended Thermal Lance is being researched for TOPshooter, and that first Colossus is already out on the table, and the second one coming out for Sky with 2 more Archons sitting back and relaxing on that third base. I wonder, he doesn't. TOPshooter's not even aware of that third right now, and I have to admit that he's been rather curtailed in all of his scouting. He had that observer out just moments before that third went out, and so maybe TOPshooter feels like he's ahead. It could be that he's just got excellent game sense right now, knowing that, oh man, all those guys are just kind of sitting there. Just knowing that at the 25-minute mark, probably Protoss has 3 bases. They like that. All things considered, I think Sky is probably ahead just because he has those Archons out. It's basically Immortals versus Archons as far as unit composition is concerned, but the charge has been researched for those Zealots, so that's going to be a lot of damage, and it's going to substituting the charge for the Sentry's force fields, and so that those force fields could be used for something else, something like preventing the Stalkers from retreating. I think these forces were to clash, Sky would come out on top, but I also don't think that Sky is going to be using the straight up death ball mechanic. I think he's going to be relying on those Stalkers. I think he's going to be doing a lot more damage with that kind of harassment play. And as this progresses, I think Sky is going to continue to get farther and farther ahead, because I don't feel like Shooter has macroed to the best of his abilities now that this game is kind of stabilized, is what I'm trying to say. Hey, but this is a nice macro mechanic, using just some Vespene gas that he had just lying around to make a bunch of Archons of his own, really bolstering his force. And now that he's got those Archons added into the mix, this Death Ball is going to be moving out, and I think if this Death Ball goes head to head against the one over here just to the north of the 4th, then yeah, absolutely TOPshooter's going to come up ahead, and Sky's got to know that he's going to be retreating, even though he's throwing down 1 or 2 extra pylons. TOPshooter's making his presence known that no, I've got map control. You don't have map control. I've got map control. Taking down that single Archon, and the rest of them are going to be retreating. Where are the force fields to prevent these guys retreating? Unfortunately, the sentries are way too far in the back of that death ball to prevent this force from retreating. Got to be careful, though. If TOPshooter isn't careful, he'll push up into these destructible debris, into that choke, and he will get chewed alive by all these Colossus. We see 4 Colossus out on the field against 3. Those Immortals are going to be the real big difference. Those Colossus being very ballsy, pushing off into the middle of the the middle of the choke, taking quite a lot of damage. 2 Archons have successfully drawn aggro, pushing their way up the force. TOPshooter remarking, I don't know what that Archon was thinking either, but he successfully took almost 300 points of damage. So that's got to be rather devastating. A 5th Colossus adding into the mix. Got to protect this 3rd. Really doesn't want to fall behind in the macro right now. Here comes that large clutch that both players have been hoping for this entire force. The Archons are on the south side of it. Oh no, half of it being drawn off into the no one's engaging the way that they need to engage. Those Colossus are getting chewed alive because nothing's in front of them. Unfortunately, TOPshooter it really just caught off guard with the force that xpRiSky has. Those Archons taking so much damage, doing so much damage, and all of a sudden, I mean, Sky comes out ahead almost 2-1 in that. I don't even want to look at the units lost at, but yeah, wow, it was neck and neck just moments ago. Now at 1,500 over 1,100, TOPshooter taking quite a lot of damage there, and plenty of Archons left over. Sky's going to be able to defend this 3rd, no problem at all. Yeah, a couple of Zealots have made their way into the home base, taking out more than a handful of those workers killed. 18 workers killed, but you switch over to the Harvester count, 46 over 48. TOPshooter really doesn't come out ahead on that. Tapping out, I don't know if I 100% agree. I mean, look at all those Colossus. Yeah, there's not much you can do against that. I guess that's wise, just basically seeing 7 Colossus on the field and then all those Archons, knowing that there's really no way to come back from that. I am so incredibly impressed at how many Colossus Sky has managed to produce just off of 2 bases, because by the time he got the robotics facility, his main was completely mined out. And then he's also made so many Colossus, and that's just because he was relying on those Stalkers for such a long time. I mean, they're very cost-effective units, very not very gas intensive, so he had some extra gas left over, and that directly translated into those Archons. On the other side of the thing, TOPshooter, it was a fantastic hold from that early 4-gate aggression with that blink stalker route. Very well done. I especially like taking out all those stalkers up on the high ground by having your force halfway split from high and low ground, covering all of your bases there, getting that snipe out, and then capitalizing on that momentary ceasefire, because you knew the stalkers were done, that harassment was done. Fantastic play there. Unfortunately, you were right. You kind of got screwed by the AI there, retreating back. I don't know if you caught it, but a couple of your Colossus were firing down at one of your own Archons, which was over here for some reason. Like half your Archons were retreating in front of the Colossus while you were trying to control the Colossus. I don't know where the AI ends. Maybe they were just some misclicks thrown in there, because huge fights like that are terrible. You know, they're just really hard to control correctly. I don't know, and I don't really have a big tip to help you get over that, because it's all just muscle memory and eye-hand coordination, which I have to admit is my weakness also. You know what my real weakness is are people who watch my videos. So if you guys have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I'm Ibigandscary. Bye.